Welcome to the Lauren Blackwell channel. Today I want to talk about Dan Rivera, the Devils on the Run tour, and the Annabelle doll, because I have my theories and opinions on some of the things that surrounds the recent events concerning the passing of Dan Rivera and the Annabelle doll. So let me just begin with a few summaries and then I'll get to what I really have to say. Raggedy Ann is a character that was created by an American writer and illustrator called Johnny Gruelle. He created the Raggedy Ann character in the 20s. He wrote a lot of stories surrounding Raggedy Ann, and Raggedy Ann actually has a brother called Raggedy Andy. Okay, so this character was very successful. It had very interesting stories. It's a children's book. Okay, it's not a horror story or anything like that. However, Raggedy Ann character became accompanied with a doll called the Raggedy Ann Doll that was created and marketed at the same time as the stories, and it was very successful. So this Raggedy Ann doll, it's a rag doll with yarn for hair and a triangle nose. The Raggedy Ann stories with the doll had a lot of sequels, and they were all very successful and interesting. At some point further down the line, after many years of Raggedy Ann dolls being a thing, a series of strange occurrences and deaths caused a particular Raggedy Ann doll to be suspected of being possessed. And as a result of that, Ed and Lorraine Warren were called to investigate that particular doll. They realized that the doll was inhabited by the spirit of a little girl. But later on, Ed and Lorraine determined that the spirit that is possessing the doll is not of a little girl, but it is pretending to be that of a little girl so that it can be taken into a home and taken care of so that it can later on possess a person. Now, in all of the research that I've done, I did not come across anywhere where Ed and Lorraine Warren gave the name of the demon that's pretending to be the little girl. However, in the movie Conjuring, they did name the demon according to their story that they ascribed to be what is possessing Annabelle. Now, that is only in the movie. It's not part of the real life story of Annabelle, but since it is such an integral part of Annabelle the doll, as people know it, I'm just going to include it here. So according to the Conjuring, Annabelle is actually possessed by a demon called Malthus, also known as Halphus. It is presented sometimes as a bird-like creature with a beak, and sometimes it is portrayed as a goat-like creature with horns. This Annabelle story has been so completely overtaking of the history of Raggedy Ann dolls that when you see a Raggedy Ann doll, you can't help but think about the story of the possession by Annabelle. But a lot of people have not watched the movies, so I just wanted to give a summary here. Not everybody watches horror movies, but I see a lot of takes and a lot of people talking about Dan Rivera without really giving any background story, and it just sort of starts from nowhere. And some people don't even realize that the doll was going on tour. Although people that do follow these kinds of stories do know, but a lot of people don't. So that's why I'm giving this summary, just to put things into perspective. So anyway, Ed and Lorraine Warren formed an investigative research company named the New England Society for Psychic Research. Through this society that they created, this organization, they performed a lot of investigations into the paranormal, and they also created an occult museum in which they stored the Annabelle doll as well as other objects of possession that they have collected over the years. Ed and Lorraine never took Annabelle on tour. They never took any of the objects that they collected on tour, but they did a lot of speaking engagements where they explained what they knew about paranormal activity. I don't know if it was their idea to begin to take these objects on tour, but Lorraine, which is the one who passed away lastly because her husband passed away years before her. She passed away in 2019, and after that, Annabelle is now on tour, so I'm not sure whose idea it was to begin to take these objects on tour. The box does say that it should not be opened, but as we can see in the video, they opened it and transferred the doll to a different box so that they can, I guess, reconsecrate the previous box that it was in. And yeah, so there's that. Ed and Lorraine Warren kept the doll in their possession. It was secured in a case, and they did that because they wanted to keep people safe away from the doll. So they kept a very close watch on it. Prior to this, there was a particular story where the doll, when it was at the home of its owner, its last owner, it would move from one room to the next when nobody was watching, and it would move some things around. And there was a story where a friend visited that house where the doll was located, and the friend woke up to see the doll standing next to him. The doll was watching them, and the reason why the friend woke up was because they felt as though they were being strangled. But when they woke up, they just saw the doll just sitting next to them, watching them. And when they looked in the mirror, they saw claw marks around their neck as though they were being strangled. So that is one of the stories amongst many others that surrounds this particular doll, and that is why it became an issue to where they needed to call Ed and Lorraine Warren to investigate the doll, and Ed and Lorraine did and found out that the doll was possessed. So they took the doll, placed the doll in storage in a secure location, and the story about the possessed doll spread like wildfire. Anyway, Ed and Lorraine are very famous investigators, paranormal investigators, and they found a lot of cases. This Annabelle doll is just one of their cases. They have a lot of cases. But they worked for some time, but sadly, Ed and Lorraine have both passed away. Ed passed away in 2006, and Lorraine passed away in 2019. She was 92 years old when she passed away. I think it's called the Annabelle doll just because of the movies and the way that this story was told. And Annabelle doll is a more catchy name for the doll because the doll is a girl and Annabelle is a girl's name. The Malthus doll is just not as catchy as the Annabelle doll. So I don't know, maybe that's why it's known more as the Annabelle doll than the Malthus doll. But the Raggedy Ann doll, known as the Annabelle doll, was actually possessed by a demon named Malthus. At least that's how the story goes. Malthus is also named Halphus, and he is an earl in the demon world, and his job is to basically cause war and to provide resources like weapons for those wars to be fought. In a summary, that is what Halphus does. He's not as demonic as a lot of other demons are, according to the story. He's more of a demon of war. He is ranked as an earl in the demon world. He ruled against many legions of demons. So he was a noble demon. So anyway, Halfus is the demon possessing the doll that is now known as the Annabelle doll. And a lot of people are obsessed with this story. And of course, it is an avenue to make a lot of money in today's day and age. Whether the story is true or false, who cares? It's an interesting story. So, fast forward to recent times and to Dan Rivera and the Devils on the Run tour, where they decided to go on a tour called Devils on the Run, and it is being hosted by Ghostly Images of Gettysburgh Tours at an orphanage homestead in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So, this story of Ed and Lorraine Warren led to the creation of the very successful franchise called The Conjuring. Remember, I said earlier that Ed and Lorraine created the New England Society for Psychic Research? Well, this is called NESPR for short. Dan Rivera worked for this society. He was a senior lead investigator, a paranormal investigator for NESPR, and he has worked with them for over a decade. He has handled the Annabelle doll many times throughout that period, and nothing strange had ever happened to him. But recently, while they were on tour in Gettysburgh, he was found in his hotel room unconscious. They did offer some CPR, but he was deceased. According to the police, nothing unusual or suspicious was noticed, and they are ruling the nature of his death as natural causes. As far as the actual cause of his death, the reports from his autopsy has not been released, so we're not sure exactly what happened. Although Dan Rivera did complain about not feeling well a few days prior to his passing. So he passed away in the hotel room and he was found by workers. It is very sad. His family and some of his close friends did give a statement. They said he was a very good guy. He was very respected. He was a veteran and he cared deeply about people. A lot of people sensationalize his death and don't really realize that he is actually a human being who passed away, and he has families, and his family members can hear and see everything that's been said and written. The New England Society for Psychic Research, the company that Dan worked for, said that it will continue the tour as previously planned for the remainder of the year. They will not be canceling the tour because the tour brings people together and it shares knowledge and it honors the memory of Ed and Lorraine Warren and all of the work that they have done. So it will not be canceling the tour. It will continue. A lot of people are wondering why the tour is not being canceled, and kind of look at it like this. If you're working at a company and you pass away, do you think that the company will shut down operations forever or for the rest of the year? Or no, it's going to be work as usual. It does not mean that the memory of Dan Rivera is being disrespected. It just means that there is a lot more that go into this work than one person. And they cannot simply stop everything because one person passed away. That does not mean that they do not honor the person that passed away. It's just that the work is bigger than any one person. I should also point out that although Ed and Lorraine Warren's work is deeply respected and appreciated by a lot of people, there are some instances where it is said that a lot of their work, their discoveries, were debunked by a different group of people. I don't know how exactly that was done. So, however you want to take their work, it's up to you. I'm not saying either way whether I believe in their work or not. That's not what this video is about. But here's what this video is really about. It is the fact that I believe that anything that you give power to can affect you. So if you're someone that believes in the supernatural and in paranormal activities, and you believe that it has the ability to affect your life in some way, it can affect your life. You are giving it power by believing in it. When we say that human beings are an open system, it's not just in the biological sense. I think that that is also in the psychosocial sense, which is however we interact with our environment, either through our psyche, through our biology, as in what we ingest, what we touch, what we inhale, what we step on, what we have physical contact with, our thoughts, and as far as our psyche, what we read, what we choose to believe in, what we listen to, what we think about constantly, what we absorb mentally, through music, words, movies, etc. All of those things can affect us depending on how much we allow it to affect us. I think we have some degree of control over this. However, I think that we cannot underestimate the magnitude to which these things can affect our lives. I think we sometimes underestimate the power of our own minds as human beings, because the things that we believe in can create a whole new world for us in a way that is so real and truly affects us that even we may not be aware that we have created that world for ourselves. So if, let's say we're handling a doll, you're handling a doll, you truly believe the doll is evil, it has all of these powers, can negatively affect a person, and then you fall sick. What would normally be a normal illness, let's say you're having some pains in your chest or something, what would normally be chest pain and cause you to go to the emergency room and do the natural steps to healing yourself, taking medication, getting admitted, etc. Instead, the fear and anxiety that you have towards this object, this doll, in our example, can cause you to begin to truly live in fear and anxiety that the doll is the one that is affecting you, and putting you in that sort of almost a state of paralysis, because if you believe that something is supernatural, you most likely will not be going to the doctor to get it cured. You will go deeper into your belief and try to find other religious or spiritual or paranormal ways of resolving that issue. I'm not saying that that is what happened in Dan Rivera's case. We don't know what happened in Dan Rivera's passing, okay? We don't know what caused it. However, what I'm saying is, if you believe in the supernatural, it can negatively affect you. It can put you in a negative state of mind, body, and soul, to where you begin to act in a way that you normally would not act if you do not believe that it is supernatural. So when people say that these possessions are not real and it's all a hoax and that cannot do all of that, no doll can cause any sort of a thing to anyone, it's true and false at the same time. It's true if you do not believe that something supernatural is happening to you and you look for alternative means of solving the problem, even if the problem does not get resolved and you end up passing away, then the story is not that you were harmed by anything supernatural. It's just going to be, well, this so-and-so caused their death, so either they had an accident or they had a fall or it was natural causes. That is what the story would be. But if you believe it's something supernatural and you go down the supernatural route and you do not go to the hospital, you're going to churches and trying to use other means to cure yourself and it does not work, Then the story would be that, well, he had this supernatural thing in his possession, and that was what caused their death. So your story depends on the path that you choose and the ways that you choose to handle it, and basically your actions surrounding the events that are happening in your life. So when it comes to me and how I handle supernatural things, because I'm not exactly a superstitious person, but I also believe that my mind has the ability to make anything a reality, which means that if I spend a lot of time around a particular thing and I begin to dig into it and read stories about it, that thing can have the ability to begin to change the way I view it, and it can lead me to change my belief about it. And if my belief changes about something, it could lead me to giving that thing to have power over me. So that is why when it comes to certain things, my answer as to whether or not they're real is always going to be yes and no. They're real for you if you make them real. And if you do not make them real, they will not be real for you. Obviously, I'm speaking specifically about paranormal stuff because let's take fire, for instance. Whether you believe it's real or not, you can be burned by it. So, you know, it applies in certain instances, while in other instances, you just have to accept that they are real. So, that is my opinion on not just this Annabelle doll, but on the paranormal in general. And I just wanted to share that with this story. It's a tragic story, and I don't want to make Dan Rivera's passing to be about the Annabelle doll, but it is so closely linked that I just wanted to touch on all of them. That's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. See you in my next one. Bye, guys.